Welcome to the Begrudged Book Club podcast. My name is Sarah.
And my name is Rachel.
On this podcast, myself and a guest take turns picking out a book and forcing the other person to read it.
Aw, crap. I gotta read this book?
The Begrudged Book Club.
In this episode, Rachel has first dibs picking out a book. Do you want to tell them what book you picked?
Yes, so I picked The Living by Matt De La Pena. And I kind of found this book by chance. I was just at a bookstore and it was there and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. And when I read it, it was really good. And I don't typically read thriller kind of books, but this one was really captivating to me. So that's why I wanted Sarah to read it.
It was really good. Okay, let's get into it.
So the protagonist of the book his name is Shai Espinoza, and he is a Mexican-American high school student who takes a job on a luxury cruise ship to help support his family. Shai is selfless and hardworking, and he wants to make enough money to help his mother fill the financial hole that was left after the death of his grandmother. And his grandmother died from a highly contagious illness called Romero disease, which has been sweeping unchecked through the border towns in Mexico and the United States.
Okay, can I just say that this is a totally made-up disease, Thank Jesus, because the symptoms of this disease are horrifying. It makes you claw your skin off and then you die, basically. And I had to Google this immediately because I was terrified when I heard about it because I'm a hypochondriac and I almost had a heart attack. But thankfully, it is just a made-up disease for the story.
So Shai, he shares a cabin with Rodney, and he is a 6'4" offensive lineman who spends his time reading romance novels, and he works in the kitchen on the cruise ship. And he is also enamored with his friend Carmen, an 18-year-old half-American woman whose father died from Romero disease. And Carmen has a fiancé waiting for her back home, and that has kind of caused a lot of conflict when Shai's romantic feelings for her become very clear.
And they actually kiss, which is kind of crazy because Carmen has a fiance and Shai knows this, but they have really connected talking about this disease that has impacted their family, and they end up kissing. But, it happens.
And they have a little late night rendezvous with some wine.
Yes.
That's a little smooch.
It happens. That's when it happens.
So Shai also works alongside Marcus, who's a hip-hop dancer, and Kevin, who is an Australian underwear model. And he regularly on the ship runs into an enigmatic older man named Shoeshine. Now, Shoeshine is literally one of the best characters in the whole book. He's super mysterious, and he just kind of will pop up out of nowhere throughout the whole book. And then later on, when we get further on in the book, he becomes a really important character. So it's good to kind of pay attention to what he does throughout it.
Yeah. You find out that Shoeshine is a certified badass, basically.
Yeah. Ain't that the truth? So on Shai's first voyage with the Paradise Cruise Line, he witnesses the unusual last moments and suicide of a scientist named David Williamson. So Williamson rambles on about the blood on his hands and the fact that he has betrayed Shai in some way. Now, Shai attempts to save Williamson when he throws himself over the railing of the ship, but he isn't strong enough to hold on before the man falls off the ship to his death.
And a great first day on the job.
Oh, yeah. And I can't believe that Shai chose to go on another trip after that, after this guy just died in front of him.
Right.
So on his next voyage, Shai notices that a man in a black suit is following him and asking questions about him. His cabin is broken into and searched, and another passenger, Jim Miller, who's the owner of the drug company Lasso Tech, takes a suspicious interest in him at the same time.
Red flags galore from Jim Miller.
Mm-hmm. Now, a sudden storm then develops, forcing all the passengers and crew to shelter inside. As the storm worsens and the waves grow higher, a series of devastating earthquakes demolish the west coast of the United States. And I feel like it's kind of sus that the Romero disease happens and then it's basically the end of the world.
Mm-hmm. It's got to be connected.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Now, aside from destroying entire cities, the earthquake also caused several tsunamis, which then tore the cruise ship apart and killed a majority of the passengers and crew. I personally thought that was like literally the most stressful part of the book. Because I was sitting on the edge of my seat the whole time, and Shai's like going in and out of consciousness, and you're like, oh my gosh, is he gonna live? Is he gonna die? Like, what's gonna happen?
Mm-hmm.
And then when the storm passes, he's left in a half-destroyed lifeboat with a Texan oil tycoon named William Henry and a rich, snobby girl named Addison Miller, who is the daughter of previously mentioned Jim Miller. Now, the three struggle to survive on the open ocean, dealing with thirst, hunger, and circling sharks.
Okay, can I say I am on an SSRI? And even that could not save me from the anxiety that I was feeling while I was reading this book, especially when they were on this raft and like they didn't know where to go. It was 2 kids and a man, like an older man that was like dying. So I literally couldn't handle.
Yeah. And William Henry, he had gotten bitten by a shark before he got on the raft with them, and he was like bleeding out from this. And right before he died, I did think it was kind of sweet that he chose to throw himself overboard so that Shai and Addison didn't have to like deal with his dead body.
Bruh.
Like, it's sad, but it was kind of like sweet that he did that for them.
And then stand-up guy.
Yeah, what a stand-up guy. But then Addison and Shai, they are left to kind of fend for themselves. And they grow a little closer as they are forced to rely on each other to stay alive. So while they were floating out in the open ocean, Addison did tell Shai about her father's company and what they did, how they made the Romero disease. But I also thought it was interesting that while they were floating around at sea, they found like a mysterious burned up like boat yacht kind of thing. And when Shai snuck on it to see like what was going on, there was dead scientists and a duffel bag. And I felt like that was very sus at the time.
What the hell is going on?
So eventually, Shai and Addison, along with many of the other survivors, eventually reached Jones Island, which is a private island where Lassotech.
Okay, Lassotech's like umbrella, like corporation from Resident Evil. Let's be real. Like they're doing all this shady stuff and creepy experiments and like terrifying business.
So they reach this private island where Lassotech is carrying out pharmaceutical experiments. Now, this is the point where Shoeshine comes back, one of the best guys, who just kind of shows up out of nowhere. And he is the one who rescues Shai and Addison from the ocean because he's got his little boat and he's going out trying to find people. And he brings them onto the island. And he figured out that the duffel bag that they had with them was full of the cure for Romero disease. And so he made sure that like him and the guys also got it so they wouldn't die of it.
Yeah.
Then while they're on the island, a ship of researchers arrive and offer to take all the survivors home. Now, something I did think was interesting about this part was that they had like the penthouse.
That's right.
And everyone was like sick in the
Shai
penthouse.
went upstairs to check on Rodney. There was a penthouse at this hotel on the island, and he went and he heard that Rodney was up there. He went to check on Rodney. He has Romero disease, and he's like strapped to a bed, and there's other people strapped to beds
like
in this
whole
penthouse.
like, floor of just like sick people.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Ugh,
that
so
was
creepy.
like, ugh, that gave me the ick. So the ship arrived to offer to take all the survivors home, and Shai and Carmen are reunited. Woo! And Addison and her father suddenly just disappear.
So sus.
Very sus. And Shai learns that Lassotech was responsible for creating the disease to profit off of the vaccine.
That is diabolical. Oh my god.
So just like the fact that they made a cure for it, then released it, so they could make money off a cure, but then the earthquakes hit before they could release it, that just seemed a bit sus and coincidental that I don't know if I believe them. That they're not like evil or something.
Oh yeah, definitely. Maybe in the sequel we'll like learn maybe more about like the natural disasters happening. Maybe like aligning with Lassotech's
maybe
like,
they
plans.
knew when the earthquakes were going to happen.
Maybe.
So these researchers that arrived on the boat, they were revealed to be Lassotech security forces, and once they get everyone loaded on the boat, they decide to execute and blow up the ship and kill everyone except for Shai, Carmen, Marcus, and Shoeshine, who Shoeshine kind of gave him a heads up and was like, hey, you shouldn't go on that boat. Something's sus. And then he was right. They all died. So they all ended up on a sailboat, and they were able to escape the island while like the ship was burning and like they were being shot at while they were trying to get to the sailboat. And it was very dramatic. So then in the sequel, which is called The Hunted, it goes into kind of more of what the world is like after what they call the big one, which is the earthquakes. And they're trying to like get the cure to the authorities so that they are just dealing with earthquakes and not the Romanos on top of that.
Gotcha. I need to read the sequel because this was really good. It was a solid YA survivor thriller book, and it did a great job of giving me like hella anxiety, which is fun sometimes, you know, like it's all you want to experience all the emotions when you're reading, and this is one of those books where it's like you got high anxiety and it's fun. It's like a wild ride. The pacing was really quick. I do love an end of the world as we know it trope, and I would give this book 5 stars.
So I love this book too. I thought the chapters were short enough that it made it feel like you're not like taking forever to read this book. The chapters were only a couple pages long, so it made it feel kind of more like fast-paced and more like, okay, the book is going somewhere. It's not just kind of there. And I don't typically read like survival thriller kind of books like that, but I thought it had a good pace. It wasn't too graphic, and it did keep my interest throughout, and I would definitely give it 5 stars.
Sweet. Okay, so I get to pick the next book. That's the end of the episode. The next book we're going to read is The Duke and I by Julia Quinn, a Bridgerton book. I'm so excited. I've just got into the show like over the summer, and Rachel's been watching the show too. So I'm super excited to get into that. So thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.